Hi, I'm Sophie, and I haven't seen a lot of movies.
Hi, I'm Paul, and I'm here to help with that. And we are
SP Film Viewers.
Movie March rears its ugly head for a summer spectacular.
You said never again. And then guess what you did? You then put it out to the patrons, everybody who likes us, just to piss me off, didn't you?
No,
Yep.
not to piss you off.
Yeah. Because, I'm not going to appreciate it. I'm just going to think it's just the same as every other movie. Oh, there's a monster. People get scared. They run away from it. They die. They try to kill the monster. The end. Sorry.
But for one off.
But when's this going to end, Paul?
Never!
Oh, let's do another one off. I know you love monsters.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to be a thing, sweets. It's just not. You flagged that horse and it's it's just not going to happen.
I'm going to try one more time.
I've seen what your options were. I don't think I'm going to love either. Neither one would I pick up in a movie.
Off the shelf.
Off the shelf and go, oh yeah, I want to put that on tonight. Neither one.
Well, that's your opinion.
The best monster film I've seen is a Godzilla one that was recently...
-1.
Is that what it's called?
Yep.
That's the best one I've seen.
Above, the Peter Jackson King Kong remake.
Them two, I'd say, are that's it. They're the exceptions. The rest are just normal.
Godzilla vs. Kong. Oh.
It's alright.
Isn't it now in comparison to -1? It is.
Oh, yeah.
It's
I haven't even gone to see the other one, have we?
The new the latest one. I haven't seen that one because it's like, well, how can you compete with that one?
Well, yeah, and no, how they compete is bringing another lookalike of King Kong, and then they join forms and work together, and it's a load of just Transformers, and it just generating.
It did look, yeah. So I'm going off topic of what the actually watching, but yeah, no, it does that when they did his Kong in that trailer. What we're seeing looks like he's got like Transformers hand on him. It's like, what the hell's this about?
It just aggravates. You've just aggravated me. Why?
But these ones are a bit more somewhat special in a way because.
Don't tell me you bought them from America and that's why they're special.
No. Okay. Yeah. Well, one is a stop motion one, but a very decent stop motion.
Okay, I value stop motion, so let's hope we're going with that one.
We are going with that one.
Good.
And the other one was more of a, you probably like, oh my god, like with that one, but it's like there was like the UK version of Godzilla basically.
What? So there was a Godzilla in UK?
Yeah, but like some like variation of it, like
right,
inspired,
like a monster.
Like it was just set in, yeah.
Okay.
But that was like a man in a suit kind of thing. So that would have been, you'd have been like, oh, the. Anyway, so what was this long pre-ramble? This is, the two films they were. This are really obscure because I can't even truly remember like what it was on, like for reference purposes. But it was like on some kind of like compilation VHS tape of a thing that was documenting sort of like clippets from like dinosaur movies basically, or anything encompassing that basically. And so there was a whole load of like snippets from like throughout the early like even 1920s of like first instances of referencing dinosaurs in like cinema and all kind of stuff.
You're cute, aren't you?
And both of them were like featured in that video, and it was like obviously like at the start we did like old announcer voice kind of thing, like
is that why you're doing that?
Doing that so that the like that was the hype man for those films, obviously in the trailers, weren't they, like that? And so both of them in that were like, oh wow, that sounds really good and looks impressive. Like I didn't see him till much later in my life, of course, but
the fact that you're getting so passionate about it is making me want to watch the film. See,
yeah, but this one we're covering the Beast The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
It looks old.
It's a 1953 film.
Old.
Old.
And is it like an actual toy? Is it like Rex from Toy Story that they're using?
No. It's the same guy who did the stop motion in, remember, from like Clash of the Titans? Who did that?
Yes.
So this is like a first example of him using stop motion effects of that.
So is it a puppet or is it?
Yeah, it's a model, like King Kong was in the 1930s film.
All black and white, I'm guessing.
All black and white, yeah, and was technically this was the precursor or inspiration for Godzilla himself.
Right. Well, we started right at the beginning then.
So like a year before.
Also, how long is it? Because
it's very short. It's at 1 hour and 20 minutes.
You're really trying to sell this, aren't you? Okay. It's got some promising factors.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any people actually in it, or?
Yeah, well, of course there's going to be people. Otherwise, you wouldn't just have a thing just
I'm just
walking
wondering
around.
if they're making them do stop frame or how they're incorporating it.
Oh, like the
Is it layers with the negatives?
Yeah.
Okay.
The rear projection, like they did in King Kong.
What about like when they did it in the Charlie Chaplin, where they sped up kind of thing, similar?
No, I think it progressed a little bit since then.
Okay.
So.
Go on then.
Shall we do it in an announcer voice?
Yes, please. Your best one.
Okay. An atomic blast in the Arctic releases the 140-million-year-old dinosaur, which causes destruction and terrorizes the cities from North Atlantic to New York City.
You know who he sounds like?
Who?
My guy from It's a Wonderful Life, a little bit. Like, he sounded American-ish.
Or James Stewart?
A little. More twangier, but...
Okay.
You should talk like that more often.
Okay. I don't think that's very put on. It's not a typical American accent. The old styley. So.
I didn't actually pay attention to what you said.
Oh, God almighty. Basically, monster from the Antarctic makes its way all across New York City.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was too distracted.
And then, obviously, they've got to stop it.
Can't just befriend it.
Friend. It's already humorous. One before I even started. All these meandering things we're going through with this.
True. Well,
Right.
we best shut up better and go watch it.
Sure. Because it's only an hour and 20, so what's your problem?
Well, yeah, true. We'll probably do the podcast that length of it.
Right, so we'll be back with our thoughts on the Patreon pick of The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
Impossible, unbelievable, fantastic. But I tell you, it could happen. It could happen. It could happen. It could happen.
Yes, it could happen. For various authorities believe that buried somewhere under the polar ice cap, in a state of suspended animation, are the awesome creatures, the leviathans that roamed the earth at the dawn of time. And under certain conditions, a nuclear explosion could free one from his icy tomb. Then, guided by instinct, the beast would come back to the caverns of the deepest Atlantic where it was spawned. An armored giant, wreaking his prehistoric fury on modern man and his puny machines. Cities would be terrorized by the cruel intruder from the past. Populations crazed and panicked with fear by its destructive force. Granite and steel would crumble. Soldiers and their weapons would be powerless before the onslaught of the beast. The beast. The beast. The beast from 20,000 fathoms.
And we're back, having watched The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms.
I was going to say, I was disappointed that you didn't go, and we're back. Like in a... It's like, oh, probably missed a
voice.
trick.
Yeah. So what did you think? And I know it's not, I can say, not your cup of tea, but I don't know if it's probably going to be the same kind of scenario as before, or is there with this one because it's like a black and white style one, or if that had anything to it, or don't worry, I don't expect it to be like don't hold back essentially. So I mean, but I can't think it would be as bad as some others.
It's not the worst monster film I've seen. It's not, and I really do enjoy the black and white. I enjoy like the, I like old films, so it does have that appeal.
Yeah,
I do enjoy the relationship with Lee and I forgot his
Professor Tom Nesbitt. Yeah.
Yes, I enjoyed that side of things, like when it's blooming and they're like, oh, we'll go find the monster, and there's a lot of it where it is not obviously monster heavy until the very end. Like you just get a glimpse of a monster, and then that's it. Or you hear something in an article that the monster's done something.
Yeah.
And I quite like the fact that back then no one would believe you, like, oh, you're mentally deranged or whatever. You need to go into an asylum or something like that. Like you've lost your marbles.
Yeah.
Really, really enjoy all of that. This is a bit that upsets me because when it gets to the point, I know I personally just switched off when it was like more at the back end and he was in New York and he's the dinosaur, whatever he is causing havoc. It was just like, oh, yeah, this is just the same. And I wish I could just sat and appreciated it for how they were doing it a bit better.
Right.
Because initially, when there were certain shots when I saw him, I was like, wow, okay, for a film with this age and date.
In the 50s, yeah.
Being stop frame, the way that certain shots when you saw him initially were really cleverly done. Like
one of the favourite ones I really like is like when he's attacking that lighthouse. Because it's like a silhouette kind of thing. So, in a way, it kind of disguises it a little bit, like any blemishes and stuff. But because it's like in that, the darkness of it all, and the motion of it still works. Like, it's kind of like looks semi-realistic in that
and the way
approach,
that
isn't it?
They do the shot then of the people inside.
Right. Yeah,
That's really clever.
How the destruction, like the coming down the lighthouse and it's all caving in inside and everything like that. But even obviously, like when you see like in those first glimpses of it, it's almost like cleverly disguised by like glass that's got like water on it or something like on the ship. It's like, oh, it's kind of blurred out a little bit, so it's not like, oh, it looks really rubbish. Like you can tell it's just for a moment you kind of just see the head and everything, but it's not roaring as such. But it's like it's there and you can like,
oh my God, like kind
ominous
of
it, yeah. So I don't see a problem with how it's paced because sometimes a lot of these films can be very bloated in like the people interactions and stuff, and the way that this film's kind of sprinkles the creature attacks here and there as it goes through.
I think I enjoy that. I'm not complaining about that. What I'm complaining about is just at the end, the way that it's like, oh, okay, now
it's like got to cram everything in the last like 10, 15 minutes.
And I just don't think I enjoyed it as much. Like I actually enjoyed the petering of the monster or the beast throughout and the dialogue and the story so much, and then the end were just like, oh, this is your typical cliche monster film now. And initially all the way up to it, it wasn't until like...
I'd say this is one of the better examples of like 50s B-movie monster movies.
I think I definitely enjoyed it. Did I enjoy the end bit when he's getting attacked and all of that? And then obviously the monster, you feel sorry for the monster, but you also feel sorry for the people who have been hurt by him as well. And it's like a bit of a, oh, well, we kill him now and that's it, and that's the end, and it kind of ends abruptly. Because I think they wanted to keep him and they wanted to, like, initially, didn't they, and understand and
the professor did. The other professor, who's works in the paleontology kind of field.
So I think I'd have preferred it if they could have, I know it's a lot to ask, like, to tame the beast, but it would have been a bit nicer.
I think if the film had a longer run time, then they probably would have tried to work that in somehow, I think. But coming back to, I kind of found the film did kind of fly by pretty quickly. I kind of realised, obviously, I know it was a short run time going in, but before we know it, it's like, oh yeah, it's coming to near the end now. Like, already, like, because I'm going through, like, I sort of know the beats of how, when it, comes to New York, everything like that, and then that was the fairground bit at the end. happens, but at the same time, I didn't quite remember the whole like diving bell scene when the other professors like going to the depths of the water to source out where it resides or did before it was.
So, I can't say if I did remember that or not because obviously this is my first time watching it. But do you know what the creature is?
Well, the film does call it out as what it is, but it is a fictional dinosaur. It's not an actual, like a Tyrannosaurus or a Triceratops or whatever. It's specifically made for this film, and it's not actual dinosaur. Because I know that because I'm thinking, even back when I was young and obviously really big on dinosaurs and stuff, there was like no carnivorous dinosaurs that walked on 4 legs.
Yeah,
because they're all like bipedal ones.
I feel like it's between. Sorry, my dinosaurness is not up to your level.
Yeah.
The one with the long neck, like in Jurassic Park, that sneezes on.
Brachiosaurus or something like that. Yeah.
That's kind of like the body of.
Yeah, in a way, yeah.
Somewhat without the scales, but like the thick legs and.
What do you mean by not the scales? Because I would we sort of assume that they have scaly skin.
Yeah, but this one looks more like what's the word?
Well, reptilian, but it's reptilian.
He's got a more jaggy
back, spike,
which
spikes
is like
on it.
that other one that's quite low to the ground and spiky-ish.
Stegosaurus.
Yeah, and then somewhat a bit of a T-Rex in the head.
Yeah. The dinosaur of that nature, yeah.
So that's how I would.
It's like a mishmash of dinosaurs created.
Yeah,
to combine together.
Agree with or would you say there's a different dinosaur in there that I've missed?
No, I'd say more or less. I'd say it's kind of like just like a not far off something that would be like a T-Rex or Allosaurus head. What's
an Allosaurus?
Like a earlier version of a T-Rex, as it were. I guess if you were going to compare. And just more like a normal, like I say, iguana or something that but has legs that more upright, really, because of how the body is formed, I suppose, really.
What are those ones? It's a lizard reptile thing.
I don't know if you're going to say Komodo dragon.
Yes.
Yeah, I guess you could say that. Yeah.
But bigger.
Yeah, a lot bigger. Yeah.
Like taller.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen a Komodo dragon? Not obviously in the wild, but in a zoo.
No, I haven't. No.
I have.
Was that when you went to Australia?
No.
Where's?
I know I have seen it.
Oh, right, okay. I can't think where there'd be a zoo that would have, because they're quite dangerous.
Are they?
Yeah, they're really dangerous.
Maybe it was a baby version. Let me just.
Be sure it wasn't Komodo dragon. They're from Indonesia.
How am I spelling this?
Komodo, with a K. Because anywhere it would be, I think it would be Australia. I think it's closer to Indonesia than most places. And they have all sorts of dangerous animals in Australia anyway, so.
Yeah, Chester Zoo has it.
Oh, right.
That's what I thought it was, and I thought, so don't say it. Don't say it, because you're going to be so wrong.
I've been to Chester Zoo a long while ago, but.
I think I went when Mum was like 60, maybe 50. It's one of the special birthdays we went. I don't think it must be when she was a bit younger, to be fair, because I don't think I've been to Chester Zoo.
Yeah. No, so it must be.
Yeah, true.
Way before, so.
There you go. Anyway, should we go back onto the podcast?
Yep. So, what I do quite like about this film as well, like when there's the sort of sequence where having to identify the monster with that sort of like sketchbook, look at some photos and go like, right, identify the creature from this lineup. It's like a police sketch.
It pretty much is, and I think I have 2 gripes about this. Obviously, somebody could have said, "Oh, well, it's this one," and described the monster to the sea sailor guy.
Yeah.
And then they could pretend that it's fake, but obviously it's like they both found the same picture, so it could be real. But it's like you could fluke that and make it. You could have described that monster to him.
Uh-huh.
If like somebody were like making it up.
Yeah.
But the fact that they all just take it as gospel now because 2 people have gone, oh, that's the
I
creature.
know, yeah.
It's like, I feel like nowadays you'd need a little bit more than that.
Yeah, 100%. But certainly in storytelling purposes, for this, it's got to get through the story to get things moving. Because I think the professor's a bit more like, scoffs at it a little bit, and then like within 5 minutes, it's like, oh well, you convinced me.
Yeah.
Way and
he's meant to be going on holiday. Bless him, he's not been on holiday for 30 years, and then this happens.
Yes. Oh, god damn it.
And then you feel really sorry for how it ends for him as well, because he's too intrigued by this creature that he's not thinking of his own safety.
Yeah.
Which upsets me a little bit, because he was like a really cute little old man.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't really want him to die. I feel like it wasn't necessary for him to die.
Yeah, rather somebody else who's kind of like at the start when doing obviously the bomb testing, and well, I mean one of them does in an avalanche or whatever, but
yeah, somewhat. Yeah. But also, I feel like this creature is attracted to light. Is he some form of moth? Because he goes after the lighthouse, and he's going after this whatever's a submarine thing, and that's got a light on in there, and that seems to be what's triggering his motion or senses to go after it.
I guess. I wouldn't say it's a moth. I think it's just what's that catching my eye over there, really? But what you said about before about like how people don't believe you and all kinds of stuff, and like evidence of those kind of things, that is quite obviously early on when they were sort of like discovering like dinosaur bones and stuff, and obviously the paleontologists are still learning about like what dinosaurs look like and stuff we don't really truly know. But one of the first discoveries of like, I don't know if you know the dinosaur iguanodon. No.
Are you making these up?
No. The bones they had when they put it together and constructed it in like a way that it's like what they thought it was looked like, and that was a part of the bone structure. And they thought it was like a 4-legged one with like a little, almost like a tiny rhino horn on it, but it was in fact something that was on his thumb. It was a thumb spike as part of the design. So like after more like studying and discoveries of like the, when they're digging it up and stuff, so like putting pieces together, it's like
I'm sure they've got the T-Rex wrong, to be fair, because why does he have such tiny arms? Like, I don't feel like that's necessarily right. Like, just seems a bit weird. Like, he's got massive legs, a massive head, and then God just thought, or whoever created him, do you know what he needs? Tiny arms that don't work.
So Christians really believe in dinosaurs, do they?
Well, whoever created the dinosaur, like, or T-Rex, why would you give him tiny arms? It just doesn't make sense. I feel like they've definitely done that wrong.
Whereas the Allosaurus does have 3-fingered hands and a bit longer.
Oh, is that like when we're in Jurassic World and there's 2 of them, there's one bigger one? Is that what you mean?
Kind of, yeah.
Now you said that 3 prints thing, it makes... 3-finger thing. Claws.
3-pronged.
Pronged, yeah, there we go. That's what made me think of it then.
In a way, yeah.
See, I know my dinosaurs.
So, you don't know iguanodon this.
No. What was that one? With the little thumb claw thing you were saying?
Yeah, I just mentioned him.
How big is he? I don't even know how to spell it. Is he cute? Is he a veggie?
Yes, it is, yeah.
You can tell. Oh, I know it. Just didn't know what it was called.
Yeah.
Now seeing it.
But yeah. So.
It's fascinating, isn't it? To even think these existed. Like, I think this is what I like about this film as well, because it somewhat is a possibility. Like, there's some science behind it, and there's a reason why this creature's come back to life or whatever. There is some kind of like sense to the film of a story. Whereas like King Kong, like, why is he such a big giant monkey? Like, why? What made you that large? Like, whereas this is like, oh well, this is a creature that has lived. It is this big, but
and
it died.
Just preserved in ice.
Yeah.
For 100 million years, and then
we've just woke it up with a nuclear bomb.
Whereas Godzilla was more a thing of, it was because of radiation that made him the way it is.
So is he already like a crocodile or something, or some form of creature?
Who?
Godzilla. Like, is he...
Well, I think that's what they remember, the terrible like Matthew Broderick version that came out in the American version of Godzilla in that film, where it was like an iguana, and then they did the bomb, and then he became Godzilla, is what is sort of implied from that. Radiation caused him to be that way. And I think that's what that film, that reiteration of Godzilla, takes from this film in a way, because obviously again it's attacking New York.
Yeah.
You know, like approaching the harbour from the harbour or whatever, to come in and terrorise New York that way. But I know, as I said before, like how this was the inspiration for the actual 1954 Godzilla that came after this, and that this being an inspiration for that film. So,
yeah, I think I can definitely see that this being an inspiration for all,
yeah,
like monster films going forward. And I do think it's done really well, and they've put a lot of love and effort into making the film.
Yeah, sorry, we haven't really talked about the actually, like, when you see the stop motion, do you think it works? Like when you like the back end when you see, I know you're like, oh, here we go, like, but.
Well, I did make you laugh initially when we put it on, didn't I? I was like, oh, that camera, that aeroplane's going really, really fast. I wonder how many times they're pressing it to take that photo, because everything's stopped frame, and Paul went, no, Sophie, just the beast, like. Yeah. So I was like thinking, oh, they're going to just do it all in stop motion. Yeah, I don't know why I thought that. So having a blonde moment, clearly. I think initially the stop frame works really well.
In the small doses as it's peppered through, yeah.
Yeah. There is one shot where it was like, oh, come on, you've done so well, you've done so good. And then there was this one where it's like he's in New York and he pops up out of the sea.
Yeah, that's where he first raises his head up.
Yeah, and it's just...
You can tell, like, the projections, like, oh, that's...
He just looks too big as well. Like, the ratio of this scale of him is too enlarged compared to the people. And, like, I know you want to make him look big, but it's not coherent all the way through the film with how big he's looked.
Yeah, in some aspects, yeah, you're right, yeah.
Because, like, for example, when you kind of say about the lighthouse shot, that's a similar aspect of the head appearing. And he looks a lot bigger in this one where he's just rearing his head, and it was like, and it just didn't look very realistic, where, because I wanted him to, like, rotate his head. Yeah. And it just looked a bit jagged. Yeah. Because obviously the puppet or whatever.
Yeah, a little bit sort of jerky in a way.
Yeah, he clearly hasn't got that much movement. Yeah. He does look like a plastic toy. Like, he reminds me of Rex. Is it Rex? Off Toy Story. Especially when he's taking down that lighthouse initially, I can kind of look at it and go, I can see that that's a model lighthouse, not in a bad way.
You know, no, I get you. Yeah.
And looking at it, it still works really well. Yeah. But at the same time, I nitpick and go through and go, okay, well, that's just a prop of a... And it literally looks like somebody's playing with a toy. Not in a bad way, though. But that's like how your brain can take it, where it's like, oh, well, do this.
To determine that's not real.
Yeah.
And you can tell, like, that's just a fake plastic toy of something. Like,
but it still works really strongly. Like, it does. And I think because it's in black and white, that gives
works in its favour, yeah.
And I think it's more just when it comes to the back end, when obviously you're seeing the full of him. And he still works with these, like, clever shots where he's kind of going into a building and then...
But you can definitely tell, like, that's a prop as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, with that. And, I mean, they kind of disguise it a little bit as well. There's kind of like that sort of, like, you're sort of looking up at him as he's kind of, like, walking down the street. He's kind of, like, got that.
Yeah.
And there's sort of, like, shadows that kind of block him out a little bit as he's walking along. And that's an easy way to just show, like, the footage of him just moving around the streets and everything like that. But one of the bits I do like, actually, is... It's kind of does it in a playful way where he stands on, like, one of the, we said about toy things. It looks like he stands on a car, squashes it, and then kind of like bats it around like a cat.
Yes,
it does in a way, like sort of like a little personality to it, like that, rather than just like a creature just like having a bit of fun with it.
It's more like he's noticed something that he wants to play with rather than him being malicious. Like, it can come across that he's wanting to terrorize you and be awful. But actually, for him, it's just like these weird little objects that he wants to bat around and play with. Yeah,
and the policeman shooting at him and stuff.
And then he eats him.
Yeah, which you could argue, that's like a bit thing. When he eats that first policeman, it's kind of see like, it just happens to be overlaying as his head goes down, and the policeman's like, oh, I've been lifted up, but it's not obviously not. It's definitely not in
the dinosaur's mouth.
Yeah. It's just like footage behind the head,
but it's still. It's not the crappiest I've seen. Like, just for the age of it, I have seen worse, and it's like, oh, okay, no, they have tried. Like, I wouldn't say any of it was unartistically done because they couldn't be arsed, or they were being lazy. It's just the tools that they had.
Yeah, and then this was at a time when those kind of movies were popular. and the art of this kind of stop motion stuff was still in effect. Obviously, I said like you've had King Kong way before that, anyway. But even that, as much as I love the film, is when you get the real close up of King Kong, and it looks like obviously like a real like.
And I
puppet.
couldn't tolerate that. I just couldn't.
Yeah,
it's like a man in a suit, and it's just.
And no, there was none of that. But I think it's just...
but like further down the line, that's kind of what it felt like.
Mm-hmm. And people really like were almost like blown away by it, really, because that's like, wow, how did they do that? And
I think that's what gives the credit to this film, because it's like nowadays you can expect anything, and it's like, oh well, yeah, that's CGI or whatever. And this is the one where I do think, compared to like King Kong, which looks crap, and it's hard to see past it.
Mm-hmm.
This doesn't really have that many moments where it's like, it's shot poorly, apart from the one head thing that I would say kind of let it down.
Mm-hmm.
But it was such an insignificant moment.
In the grand scheme of things. Even though obviously you're mainly here for the creature rather than you are the people. Which, which I'll bring up a couple of things I did notice this time.
Mm-hmm.
That one in particular thing, it was like a passing conversation thing that happened when Tom was in the hospital. He's reading the newspaper, and the nurse comes in and says, "Oh, what's in the paper or something?" She says, "Oh, death and politics. But the comics are the only thing that makes sense." And then, lo and behold, he like, "Oh, look, this thing about the creep, this monster in the sea serpent attacks a ship, and it's on the page with the comics." So I kind of find that sort of like ironic from what of a statement she just said before. Like, that's the thing that makes sense, and then that thing being right next to included on that page.
I think she does backtrack though, and she says that's why it's on the comics page. Like, she does kind of say that to him. Like,
yeah, but then it's like, well, if you've just said it makes sense. That's what I mean by that.
So she does contradict herself a little bit, but...
And then that sort of like, I'd say, a tender moment, or, when they're kind of in the apartment or the house, when they're like looking over those photos of Lee and Tom, and it's like, oh, she works in the past and he's like in the future, i.e. obviously like the bombs and stuff like for the future and everything. And it's like, oh, let's focus on the present now. Thing. So there's like the sort of like connection there. So it's not like a very strong connection that they've got. They're not like trying to super romance it up with how they're coming across. Still... like, oh, let's embrace and everything, and all kind of save her from, like she's trapped in a car or something. And she's pull her out or anything like that.
Also, they're not really around at this point when Manhattan's getting and New York's getting completely trashed, are they? Correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time I remember is when they're in the when the other professor's just recently passed away, and they're kind of collecting and packing a bag.
Yeah.
And she's like, "Oh, last time we did this was for for him to go away. There was a different reason we were packing." Mm-hmm. And then I think that is
you do see them at the end, because obviously they've got to get to the confrontation at the amusement park with the roller coaster.
I guess.
Where I point out to you, kind of blink and you miss it. But I was like, oh my god, it's the one who's like the marksman who's going to do this radioactive isotope to sort of like bring down the dinosaur. I said, Trevor, do you recognise who that is?
Oh, I do remember this, and I was so proud of myself.
Considering we go on about it so much.
I feel like Nico should be proud of me. I feel like Alex should be proud of me. I think I am proud of me, and I think I did say to you I deserved chocolate.
So it was Lee Van Cleef who played Angel Eyes in The Good, The Bad and The Ugly.
And I knew who it was. Because you went, do you know this is from... I think he didn't... I think he thought I wasn't going to know.
Well, yeah, but if I had said anything, you wouldn't have really...
I wouldn't have twigged.
No, but because I was like, oh my god, look.
But then the fact that I could have picked any film, Paul.
Yeah, true, yeah.
And then I went, is he the bad one? And you went, yeah!
Yes, well done.
Thank you. Thank you. And smack cookie.
Yeah.
I do remember some stuff sometimes.
Yeah. So that must have been like it was almost like a small cameo almost. Because he was like at the very back end and just for this one particular
part. He was just the shooter, wasn't he?
Yeah. And which he put like on a hazmat suit.
Oh, yes, he was there because he needed that, whatever it was, to the nitro thing.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
Yeah, got you. But then you don't really get apart from once the monster's killed, that's it, isn't it? You don't really get like
what happened after? Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like, oh, look, it's all over now kind of thing. And then the burning wreckage of the fairground attraction and the monster just wounded and dying. And it's like, the end.
But also, I have several questions on this. Because, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
First of all, we found out that the blood of the monster was fatal.
Yeah, like radioactive, yeah.
Causing people to be poorly.
Yeah.
So now they've just shot him in the wound, which now he will be bleeding.
Well,
so does that mean now, how do they dispose of the body? What do they do?
Well, that's a very good question, isn't it? Yeah.
And...
Because that's what they made it sound like. This thing was the only thing to sort of like distill the blood of it. And so make it safe to collect the dead body, I guess.
Because like, you couldn't burn it, or... Cause then that
yeah,
would
because
go in
then,
the air.
and that's what they're saying, yeah.
So then what do they do? Just leave it there?
Let it rot. Which is still also getting the air, so you don't know, do you?
But is the radiation from the nuclear bomb, is that the logic?
It probably didn't help, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, not to say that way back when it was...
with everything that happened.
100 million years ago, it was radioactive then. I think it's just that, again, it's the science of it all. It's like, oh, well, you've dropped this for your experiments for whatever reason, and then, well, like, even then when they're going out in the Antarctic, they're kind of like, oh, well, take your Geiger counter with you to make sure you're not getting too much radiation.
True. Do you think it would be as well, though, like, it could be that everyone would have to evacuate and leave it, and it would just become like a bit like Hiroshima, where eventually you can go back to it?
Maybe, but that's not really a question. It leaves as it's kind of like, well, that's that done and dusted.
Because that does much into it.
There's, yeah, in a way, it's kind of like it is an interesting point because it is almost like, yeah, it's forgotten about that's over with, because it could have just simply been a fact of, oh, it's just a monster that's been awoken and not had this level of radiation that adds an extra element to it. But it's more a means of, right, okay, what can we use to kill it? So we have to go to the extreme of this one and only option of this isotope that we pierce it through the heart, whatever, to... Yeah, it was like an open wound that he'd got, wasn't it? But obviously they only had one shot as well, so it's like, like Eminem's song. One opportunity. One thing I'm sort of questioning a little bit, though, is, well, more for health and safety reason, in the fact of when, obviously, the roller coaster carts like fall off the thing, and they slam and hit these like barrels that are just like lying there. That's not, even for back then, that seems like a very dangerous thing to have lying around for a amusement park made of timber, basically, because it just immediately like boom, like sets on fire, and then like causes the whole thing to be sort of trapped, the creature to be trapped in there. It's like, well, I don't think that's how that works, because what would make the thing explode just from like touching? That's like, say, oh, someone walked into that barrel almost. What was the barrel full of? Like alcohol? Well, exactly. Like, what was in there for starters, and why did just something slightly falling onto it cause it to explode and burst into flames? Unless it was like a spark from the wheels going really fast, like the metal. That all I can think. It's more just a means of, how can we get this thing to be set on fire, basically. That's the ending. To be fair, was more of an anticlimax than it was for the beginning for me personally, which is stupid. But I think because obviously I prefer dialogue, I prefer a story. It gave me a lot of that at the beginning, which I really enjoyed, and then it was just like a bit of a letdown. Not that they did anything wrong with how they portrayed the monster and what they did. Yeah, it was just, it felt like it kind of was, for me, like two different films. Yeah, to be fair, you normally have really like hokey like dialogue in these kind of films, but to the film's credit, there's not too much of that in this, really, because sometimes you can get really like wooden acting really with it. They were great. Yeah, I think serviceable. Yeah, but other one that I can think that kind of is similar to this is King Kong, with you do have a bit of a romance between like, I can't remember. Jack and yeah.
And there is a story to it,
Yeah.
and you do kind of love King Kong as well. I think I would have hoped it would have been more down that route.
Are you talking about the remake King Kong or the old King Kong?
The one that I liked.
The Peter Jackson one.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I think.
Yeah.
I can kind of see glimpses of this in this film with like an actual story, not just there's a monster, we need to get it, and that being the main thing. You know, there was like a relationship that was blossoming, and there was other elements to the film which give it depth.
Yeah.
But I think the ending, I'd rather them kept it or freed it or something, instead of having to kill it, and then they're just like, the end.
And it just ends there, and it's like,
Pretty
well, that's that.
Yeah.
Well, you got your short and sweet story all wrapped up. Anything else to bring up? Or scores?
Don't think so.
The only other thing I've got to mention is the fact that, but I don't really know how this makes sense in a way, as daft as it sounds.
It's weird seeing him in colour on that as well.
I think it's just a filter on
Is
the
it?
back of the box.
Like a sepia filter.
Yeah. 'Cause that's the film poster. Obviously, it's not in colour. That's
Why does that artwork look a bit Japanese to me while I'm looking
I
at
think
it?
you're thinking of like a Godzilla type thing again.
Maybe.
It's the style it was back then. It says about the creature was constructed at full scale, so they're weighing like 50 tons.
No. It looked like a toy.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, how could it been that way?
And how would they have moved it?
Unless it was literally just a model that is like, okay, here's representation of it. But then I feel that's a lot of work to put into it for just
To not use it.
to use it. When you're obviously using like miniatures and stuff for the rest of the thing.
Definitely was,
Yeah.
like tinier versions and bigger
Yeah.
versions. Maybe
Yeah.
that's why his head looked massive, because they used the full-size one for the back end, maybe.
Maybe it was used for the bits where you kind of see him like peering through like the lighthouse window or whatever. That, but then again, what's the point in that when
To
you
me,
can
you
just
could just have had his head, like it
Yeah,
wouldn't have even mattered.
yeah at that bit. So yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so it's your score first. I won't be too disheartened if it's thing, but you sung fair praise to it, so for the majority, it's not like that was
No,
terrible.
it wasn't rubbish. It's not the worst monster film I've seen. I've seen worse. 100%. Do I think, one Sunday, put this back on?
But this is feel like a Sunday afternoon film.
I'd rather
no
put the
shade to
Sound
it,
of Music back on, or Singing in the Rain. That's like my Sunday movies. It's a tricky one, because there is some stuff I like. I wouldn't say love, but I like. And I can't slander it too much. I'm going to give it a 6.5.
Okay, sorry, I thought.
The part of me wanted to give it a 7, but then I feel like I give other films a 7, and I just don't think it would be fair to do that when some of them are a little bit higher 7s. The reason why it's a 6.5 and what would have made it a 7 is the ending. Because I just feel like the dialogue when it was just all about the monster, and I think I really enjoyed the build up to it, and then it just felt like a little bit of an anticlimax at the end, and then it just finished abruptly. But that doesn't take away from the clever artistry it's done with the stop frame. I'm stuck for that, and they really did do well with the storyline for once to keep me intrigued. To be honest, it would probably been like last 20 minutes, half an hour that I got bored.
Right.
And that was when the monster was the full part.
Which is what you're not supposed to be there. You're there. You're supposed to be there for.
But I think that's the same when we watched that Japanese version of Godzilla. Is it Godzilla? Yeah, the one that you recently said was like went to the cinema.
Yes, -1. Yeah, yeah.
Because that's a similar thing where it gives you the storyline. You do feel you connect with the people.
Yeah.
And then
you relish the fact when Godzilla appears on the screens. So the balance in that film really, really works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it's just kind of a shame that this didn't have...
Yeah, you can't ask too much from it from a film of that era.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I feel like 6.5 is not being too harsh on it.
That's fine. That's fine. Well, this... I don't know if this has come as a shock to you or not really, and... I
don't know which way this is going. Like, are you going to go lower than me or higher?
No, it's not going to lower, but I'm not, in a way, not too far off what you were initially going to go at, really, because it's like, and thinking back to like other films that are in the same vein or whatever, in terms of even stop motion and all that, I think the film will sit at a 7.5.
Okay.
That's not to say like, oh, I don't know if you were thinking I was going to rate it a lot higher than that, or
Yeah, I did initially, and then you said that, and I was thinking you better not go lower than me because I'm going to smack him.
No, definitely not. No, obviously there's sort of like some weird nostalgia for me in a way, and
What,
just
'cause
like
the dinosaurs.
yeah, and what I said about like, oh, when I watched the sort of like old style trailer that was featured in that like VHS tape of the old dinosaur movies and like the compilation stuff, and it's like, wow, this looks like I want to see what this is all about. Kind of
You
thing.
are cute, aren't you? A little dinosaurness.
And there's certainly the appreciation for the stop motion anyway, regardless of where it was. And I say, like, I'm going through it going, yeah, that's still, for the time, you can still just appreciate what the level of work that's gone into, and it doesn't look that rubbish. Whereas if it was in colour, I think that would have been yeah.
They were able to disguise
it. Shadows helped a little bit more with that. So yeah, and so like I can't really put it much higher because it's again the people in it they're okay. They're serviceable for what they are, but you are mainly there for me personally and
are you?
for the monster. So the spectacle of it, really. So
No, but I feel like that's fair. Speaking of your dinosaurusness,
yeah.
Did you ever watch Not the Mama?
The TV show Dinosaur. Yeah.
That's what it's called?
Yeah.
Can't remember.
It's just called Dinosaur, yeah. Yeah. I never like watched like all the episodes or anything like that, but I just sort of knew of it really, and why?
I just remember that vividly when I was little, growing up with that, and me being like the little baby towards my dad, especially, like always being quite awful to him.
Whacking over the head with a frying pan.
If I could have got away with it, I think I would have done.
Imagine.
I was a sassy child, which does worry me for like if we ever have a child. I'll be like, I was a madam. Like, I'm not even going to lie. Like, I seem really tame now, but I wasn't.
So is this a film that you kind of like one and done kind of thing, or you feel like you'd leave it a long while, and if I said, oh, I don't, because it's a film I wouldn't like go, oh, I've got to rush back and see it, but I kind of, it's in my sort of like, I guess, every so often rotation, like something short and
I feel like
sweet.
it'd be something I would probably rewatch if you wanted to.
Yeah,
I think it won't be.
You wouldn't like. Oh, sit there like, oh, let's get get drinks.
I
and
could
food
probably multitask while it's on and be fine with that. I think it won't be one like, oh, I really want to just sit and immerse in it.
Yeah,
like,
immerse yourself. Yeah.
If I'm completely
I
honest,
get it.
but
Yeah. Cool. So that's a wrap.
It is.
That one. So I think, to be fair, that we got more out of that than I think we would have done from the other one. Go. To be honest, I think
I looked at that cover,
you would have.
And I hated it.
Well, no, you said the cover on that was like looked better than what was on the back of the box.
True, but I think I looked at like the artwork online and stuff, and I'm thinking it just looks like a shitty little thing. Like it wouldn't look realistic.
You would have a lot more complaints about that film. Yeah, I would feel like
maybe we should have done that one. Maybe it'd have been good, but
alas,
that's not because I would have decked you. You would have literally got slapped.
So, thank you very much for listening to this episode. And if you'd like to check out some of our other episodes, you can do so by going to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, and wherever else you get your podcasts from. And as always, we'd really appreciate it if you gave us a 5-star review over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podchaser, and wherever else they do the scoring system.
So if you want to be a Patreon and have the perks of voting for a film once a month and being shouted out every single week, so all you have to do is go to patreon.com/SP Film Viewers, and then you can subscribe and become part of our family. So now we're going to shout out the people who are part of the SP family.
Yeah, so we've got Nico from the Good, the Bad, Weird podcast, Ben from Push Pull Health, formerly Film Vloggers, and Mark from 100 Things We Learned from Film.
Then we've got our friend Gren on Instagram under the handle cgren_draw. We've also got Emma and Jones, who are on Instagram under the handles Weight Loss Jonesy and M_Hayton.
We've also got Alex and Shani, who are Desperately Seeking Username and SDOG, respectively, on Instagram.
And lastly but not least, my mum.
Yeah, so thank you everybody for continuing support, and thank you for voting on this film.
Yes, actually, I'll give you credit for that. Thank you for being
For
kind
saving.
to me. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, we've saved this bit till last because if you do want to follow us on social media, then please do. We are on pretty much every platform available. So we're on Twitter, TikTok, Threads, Instagram, all of those. And we're under the handle SP_filmviewers. But I'm pushing more this week because the 28th of this month is someone's birthday. That somebody's very special because he's the heart and soul of the podcast. He is the one that puts all the effort in, speaks to all the guests and everything like that. And let's be honest, there wouldn't be a podcast without you. So, we need everyone to wish you happy birthday, send all your birthday wishes to Paul, and yeah, just send all your nice messages to him because he deserves it, because he works really hard on this podcast.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But obviously you are part of the show as well, and we wouldn't have a show without you anyway, so...
Well, yeah, but I'd just be talking to myself, Paul, if we didn't have you, because it would never go anywhere. So, have to credit yourself sometimes, sweets.
So, yeah, it's going to be another birthday special.
Always.
But with a theme this time, so look out for that.
I'm really excited about the theme.
Yeah.
Well, for part of the theme. Some of it, obviously, I'm not aware of, but yeah, it should be good. So, normally our podcasts are released every Thursday. However, this one's not going to be, so it's going to be 3 days later on actual Paul's physical date of birth. So it's going to be released on the Sunday. So don't worry if you're thinking, oh, SP hasn't dropped her episode this week. It is coming. It's just going to be a couple of days late. And that's just so that Paul can get a chance to, edit all in between birthday activities and such.
Yeah.
And also I think it's nice to celebrate you on
the actual day.
Your actual day.
Yeah.
So please send him all your wishes and lovely words next Sunday.
Yep, that'd be very much appreciated. Thank you once again for listening to this episode, and we'll speak to you next time.
Speak to you next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.